Mountaineer Nation, rejoice. I am home. It's about 40 degrees colder here in southwestern Pennsylvania than it was whenever I left Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, but made it back safe and sound with my family late Sunday evening. So I've been able to put the clips together finally. And following up from my series in the spring of 2024 about the WVU football game day experience, I use that kind of as a template for this video. I want to kind of show you around Mountain America Stadium, what the Arizona State Sun Devils experience on a college football game day Saturday, talk about the stadium itself, parking, concessions, merchandising, the in-game experience, what everything feels like from their perspective. And so, yeah, here's my breakdown. There were stark differences between the ASU and WVU football game day experiences. A major difference being the city game day experience as opposed to the more traditional game day experience that we partake in Morgantown. Now, I'm used to this having been to games at Pitt and at Maryland, but that sets the tone for what fans should expect. Now, my family and I missed ASU's Devil Walk, which for this game took place at 8:30 a.m. I have heard it's pretty cool, especially on homecoming, like this game was. I also can't speak to parking prices since my family and I walked 3/4 of a mile to the stadium from a hotel, but I noticed there wasn't a lot of parking outside the stadium. And when I say outside of the stadium, I mean like within a quarter mile. And the other major difference of the whole experience was how tame the ASU fan base was, the polar opposite of a backyard brawl. What people say about West Coast sports fans couldn't be more true. The ASU fan temperament was incredibly casual and couldn't be any more blasé. There just isn't the rabidness like you can feel on the East Coast. Half the people there were there to look good and concessions. Mountain America Stadium from the outside is really cool because you have the stadium in the mountain component. For those who aren't familiar, ASU has a mountain, which the freshmen climb and then paint yellow during orientation, and then the seniors climb and paint red during commencement. Otherwise, Mountain America Stadium does have an older feel to it. It's 67 years old, but had major renovations done between 2014 and 2018. As for merchandise, everything looked pretty standard with a few merchandising stands and small team store. I know it was their salute to service game in addition to homecoming, but what I respect so much out of ASU and its fans is that they still show so much of a tribute to Pat Tillman. In regard to food, I saw a fan in the stands with honey chicken tenders and fries, and he said they were pretty good. Popcorn, lemonade, pretzels, hot dogs, burgers, pizza, nothing signature. And much to the chagrin of my wife for getting there at 10 a.m., no coffee and no breakfast food. They did have a small Chick-fil-A stand on both sides. The thing was, the lines were absolutely terrible, which I'll talk about why in just a second. Prices were relatively around what one pays at Milan Puskar Stadium, but I think just a bit higher. As for the beer selection, I was pretty disappointed in them not having an IPA selection. I feel as if that's to curb people from drinking one too many of them in the blazing heat and then passing out because of that. But I could be wrong on that one. All they had everywhere, and I looked all over the stadium, was Coors Light, Dos Equis, a Topo Chico seltzer, some blueberry-looking thing, and then their NIL beers, a lager and an amber. I liked the amber and eventually got the lager because they didn't have any more amber when I went back at halftime. Rather overpriced in my opinion, but the way they get you is they sell these 24-ounce mega cans. Same with water. They sell these liter-sized smart waters for $10. A beer ran me like $15, $16. Here's what's the trouble with Mountain America Stadium. The concourses are really tight, and there's no way to get out of the stadium on the sides. It's like a trapped, smaller Acrisure Stadium between two mountains, which bottlenecks what the concourses they do have, making the bathroom lines long, concession lines long. Getting around during the game was practically impossible. As for pregame, I liked how ASU put its students in the end zone, and they did a good job of filling it up. The band did a little rendition, not very long or anything like the Pride would. I really liked their intro team walkout video to AC/DC's Thunderstruck. I loved the walkout in front of the Tillman statue. ASU's game day activities and music were rather boring, But they sure love their Mo Bamba on third down, though. My daughter absolutely loved that every 3 to 4 minutes a plane flying out of Phoenix Sky Harbor would take off overhead. That entertained her as much as the game itself. ASU fans finally got loud during the fourth quarter when the game was in doubt for them. But my section 27, and the 5-ish sections around us were almost as loud as half the stadium for ASU. Again, so casual. It was like an FCS non-conference game. ASU won the game late, and because it went to the end, getting out was absolutely madness in the stadium. I felt like I penguined for 20 minutes going like 0.2 miles per hour out of the stadium. I said in my recap video of the Arizona State-West Virginia game, I feel as if West Virginia fans, including myself, are totally blessed. We have a great tailgating and fan experience atmosphere outside of Milan Puskar Stadium across the entire town of Morgantown and the state. The stadium itself, because of the way that it's built with lots of space around the sides and the expansion of the concourses that happened within just the last half dozen years, that getting around the egress and ingress, we're not trapped in like you are at Mountain America Stadium. The restrooms, the redesign, the concourses, the concession stands, so many of them don't create these long lines that you have to take forever to get food and beverage or have the desire to go get those things. I even think, West Virginia's food is equivalent to or better because Arizona State didn't have any sort of signature item out there. And I think the lines just give West Virginia the edge. And I would say I love me some Big Timber. So the beer, definitely love the beer selection at Milan Puskar Stadium as opposed to Mountain America. And then the in-game entertainment and music, while I think a little bit better because of West Virginia now has the stroke being involved a little bit more. And I think like football is such a really hard sport to replicate that kind of in-game fun experience, like you say, baseball or maybe even hockey I've seen done a really good job. The only area that I think that West Virginia can improve, and I said this in the spring of 2024, and maybe we thought with Coach Rodriguez coming back and the glossy helmets and the changes to uniforms in some respects, I know the helmets play a role in that. I think the one thing that West Virginia is still kind of missing as part of the fan experience is the intro. Just West Virginia doesn't have the kind of like Clemson with Howard's Rock or running the Buffalo at Colorado out on the field, or we have Country Roads, which is the best tradition in all of college football, singing at the end of the game. But just what they've tried to design, I feel like in the south end zone with the fire towers and stuff like that. I just really like what Arizona State does there with their intro video, walking out in front of the Tillman statue right there in the middle of them, running out onto the field across and in front of their student section. So as I've said before, and I can use this picture that I have here, really to prove it, as I talked about, I feel as if this entire these end zone sections, and so what is that, the south end zone, as I was just talking about, if you expand that down just a little bit, I know that's kind of where the teams, at least the opposing team, comes out over here, and Mountaineers come out here out of the locker room. But if this were completely turned into student seating, fill that up, because they've had some decent showings this season, but I would say there's no longer the need for this entire, I know I've got kind of a glare here on my lights, I'll try and switch, needing this for student seating. That entire section and then down this way, I think you can fill that out across those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections here. You can use the upper like 201, 202 over here to put opposing fans. And if it expands over into the corner sections as well for students, then so be it. So then West Virginia with the new press box, and we can talk about that in a later video. I know I didn't talk about that whenever the announcement came out a few weeks ago, but you could seat fans across this whole upper echelon over here on both sides and then down low on both sides as well. So I just love the intro that Arizona State does for its fan base. And while the temperature, you're not going to be able to create another 80-degree day in mid-November, so you're not going to have that. But while I would say that it was a fun experience, especially for, to a state that I love in Arizona, getting to travel around, see some other parts of the state while I was there, and also being the first time that West Virginia played Arizona State, if it was located anywhere in the country, even somewhere as close as I feel like as the state of Ohio, I really wouldn't care to make the effort. I think that West Virginia just has the game day experience beat in so many regards, and it really just comes down to, I think, indifference. I heard Hoppy Kercheval say on the Three Guys Before the Game recap podcast, who he was also there, that he said it was a sterile environment. I wouldn't say necessarily say as sterile as it was, just indifferent. It's a school that's 2,500 miles away from West Virginia. We have very little to no history other than one regular season game in 1979 and the Cactus Bowl game in 2016. So it's just like, as someone who has a brother who went to Arizona State and prior to them joining the Big 12, saying like, that's my Pac-12 school. That's who I casually root for out of the Pac-12. Now that they're in the Big 12, not so much, but still, like, I will feel for Arizona State. If they're not playing a West Virginia and they're not competing with a West Virginia for a Big 12 championship or anything else, then like I'm rooting for them. So there's no sort of animosity there. There's no sort of rivalry. There's no sort of competitive banter or like that kind of regards, at least from the Arizona State perspective. They just kind of look at us as kind of outsiders from halfway across the country who don't have anything in common with them. So why are we playing each other? That's what I come back to at the end of the day with all of these Big 12 schools is just, take out the like oil and gas perspective and what do we have in comparison with, Texas or Texas Tech and Baylor, TCU, Iowa State, same kind of difference, other than I feel like being very rural in those Midwestern states, and now especially the mountain time zone schools. There's no type of similarity, I feel like, between the two. And then, so I would just absolutely love if West Virginia were in either the reformed ACC or Eastern time zone, mid-Atlantic to South Atlantic schools. And then we can go from there. But still, at an awesome time. Thanks for checking out my video. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog that I do this each and every week and have a lot of fun doing it. And I'll be back later this week. Thanks for tuning in. Please like this video so more Mountaineer fans can see it across YouTube. And love to have you subscribe to my channel. Hail West Virginia. Spot the ball, baby.